All right, guys, I'm sitting here with Jean Fal, a self-made millionaire at the age of 24. Started to code at 14, and when he started his first company, he had only 52 bucks in his bank account, but he went forward with it anyway. He's now the founding CEO of Get Links, a talent recruitment platform that has operations across 4 countries, a team of over 100 employees, and a multi-million-dollar valuation. John has been named a Forbes 30 under 30 entrepreneur, being one of the youngest tech founders in Southeast Asia, with backings from giants like Alibaba. His book, The Adaptive Economy, which I highly recommend to everyone, I just finished, was awesome, was written to help companies, individuals, and investors navigate and find opportunities in a digitized and post-COVID world. Jean is also starting a technology fund called Atlas Capital next year to invest in projects that drive social impact by raising digital literacy. Jean, it is so good to have you here, man. How you doing?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, no problem, man. Man, you have a slew of history there. Could you tell us a little bit about your background from the start of your career up until now?
Yeah, I mean, put it in a nutshell, it's been a ride. My start of my career, I started in south of France, a little fishing village. Hence my French accent. I got the chance to go to Paris, learn a bit of things there, and then from this experience in Paris, graduate and go to Shanghai for the first time. When I received my first big slap in my face, this was from south of France to Shanghai. It is a big gap, right? And being a big fan of Star Wars, I always thought if I have a chance to, walk somewhere or participate to create something, I would like to see something like Star Wars happening around us, right? Technology and the power harnessed through technology, and Shanghai really reflected that for me. So that hence the slap. When you go to Shanghai and you're 20 years old, you're just like, what's going on, right?
There's a futuristic city, yeah.
Yeah, there's it's huge, it's massive. There's cars everywhere on these high suspended roads. These air train and things like this, and all these lights. It's really look like Coruscant, and hence got this feeling that Asia was something was going on in Asia which I didn't expect. And that's a little bit what teased me to try to come back after that, and somehow to end up coming to Asia the following year, which was 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been 7 years I spent in Asia, and it's been tremendous opportunities. I think the second slap was really realizing that everything I've thought I knew about Asia and its technology, which was pretty much rudimentary, elephants and rice and all the stereotypes you can imagine as a French or maybe as a German or as an European. You think Asia is retarded a little bit, right? And then absolutely not. They're actually much more advanced in many domains than you could ever imagine. And this has been a tremendous way for me to foresee the future a little bit, right? And when I come back to France now, I kind of feel like, oh, I'm going back 10 years ago in the past, right? So I've been doing this up and down, future and past jump.
Past the future, yeah.
Yeah, every year now for the past 7 years, and that gave me a little bit of perspective, because I've seen things happening in Asia that had happened already in Europe a few years ago, and that gave me an edge to create businesses that were not developed in Asia yet, but were about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, I've seen in Asia things, partially around social media and technology and e-commerce, which didn't happen in Europe before. and I'm able to connect that with my European peers now. So yeah, it's been a very interesting first decade of work after graduating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you were saying that, you come to Asia and you see all these technological advances. What do you think it is about Asia that makes it so opportune for all this technological advancements compared to back in Europe?
So firstly, when you look at Europe, we've the chance to have a legacy of a couple of hundred years of, I would say, civilization, or what we call civilization, right? So we have phone lines, we have TV networks, we have vaccines and all these things, and we have banks, right? So we feel very comfortable with that. In developing countries, in Southeast Asia particularly, and in the outer part of modern China, a lot of people, and we're talking about 1 billion people across China and Southeast Asia, were really in the street. I mean, there were no streets, so they were really in the jungle or in the farm a couple of decades ago. And all these people have entered the modern civilization really for the past 20 to 30 years. And when they entered, they actually have entered civilization with the latest comfort and technology innovations, which for us in France and in Europe and the US are actually taking a bit of time to be adopted, right? In economists call it the leapfrog, right? So the leapfrog is when you jump from no electricity, no internet, no toilet to everything in one shot, and mobile phone and mobile payment and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
And this is really much what's going on here. And to give you an example, people went from farming to selling on Facebook Marketplace within the past decade. Within 10 years, they went from living outside of a city and making maybe 1,000 baht per month to selling their products on Facebook Marketplace and be integrated to the global capitalism through their mobile smartphone. And that's just happening in 10 years, or maybe less than that for them. So you see this process happening with WeChat in China, where all the rural population of China is being integrated through WeChat. But you see that in Southeast Asia as well, and it's there. You can see innovation of how those apps are used, which have never been thought of in the US or in Europe. That's making it very special, and I think a very good forecast of what's going to happen in the next decade on social media, for example.
Do you think it's also because because there's such a difference between a change in lifestyle in Asia from 10 years ago to now, whereas in Europe, everyone's everything's pretty developed already and they're pretty comfortable and complacent, so there's not that big of a drive to change, whereas in Asia and in emerging countries, you jump from you said maybe no plumbing or living in the fields to using WhatsApp and all these tech. There's probably more of a realization and appreciation of development, and why people are really embracing all these changes. You think that plays a key role too?
Absolutely. In my book, I mentioned this is the best time to be humans.
Yeah.
I mentioned the richest barons or queens of 100 years ago actually didn't have any comfort that we could have right now, even for the poorest one, right? The poorest people here, let's say in Southeast Asia, they still have access to 4G, toilets and air conditioning, right? So these people are really leapfrogging from nowhere to the global standard of capitalism and our modern society. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's now that you mentioned your book, we can jump into the book. But let's backstop a little bit because I read your book, man. I read the whole thing, and man, it's a really good book. It's like gigantic in scope. It looks into the future. It looks at all these trends, and it also examines all these kind of like maybe like character flaws in human beings, and it identifies all these sectors that need to change. It's a big multidisciplinary book, man. So tell me about how you were able to gather all this information and synthesize it and come up with all these conclusions on your own.
All right. So, firstly, this is really the result of I think 10 years of trying to searching myself and my place in the world, talking to a lot of very senior people, because I was just trying to pick which industries I wanted to work and to dedicate maybe a few years of my life, right? So when I was student, I had a chance to work with a very big corporate company in consulting like Ernst & Young and McKinsey. I got the chance to intern with EY. I got a chance to work with Google as intern as well. And meeting those people when I was around the 20s opened some perspectives about how these people think, right? And over the next 10 years, traveling across Silicon Valley, across Asia and Europe, I've met tremendous people that were really, really experienced and much older than me, because I was the youngest entrepreneur at that time to do those type of things. And yeah, I just humbly took notes when they were talking. I took notes, I took videos, I took audio recording, and the problem was I just didn't have the time to absorb these informations, right? So I was putting them on my blog, but I didn't really have the time to synthesize them and actually analyze them and think, really, because I was building my company and I didn't even have time to breathe or to go to toilet to pee, right? For the past 5-6 years, it's been crazy. So I had these stored into my blog on my Medium, but these were not published articles. And I had literally 2,600 pieces of blog,
Jesus.
And on my phones, and it's a lot of notes and recordings, and I just didn't have the time to really work on that until last year. So I decided last year that I wanted to enter a new chapter, so I needed to put together everything I've learned last 10 years so I could be ready to move for the next 10 years. So, I locked myself up for three months, really hardcore. Went back to France, in my grandmom's house, which doesn't have much internet. And I started to relook at all these notes on my blog that I didn't publish and my phone. A lot of things were written. It just needed to be architected a little bit. And then, when I came back for 6 months, I just woke up at 5 a.m. So I had from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. to be not at the office, so I could just work on my book. And yeah, it's been a lot of research as well. So I think this book is really not my thinking only. I'm just architecting the maybe 900 to maybe 1,000 people I've met last decade, all these corporate managers, all these investors in tech, all these entrepreneurs. Got the chance to meet the founder of Evernote. Got the chance to meet very senior people in Apple, Google, Facebook, and scientists. People from Tesla, people from biotechnology, and this is what they think, right? So a lot of that is not my thinking; it's their thinking. It's just I'm the guy who got the chance to take a bit of time and put it down.
Yeah, in the end, we do need people like this, man, because we have all these people that are going at 100 miles an hour, and then we probably need some people that would step back and document all this and share it with the rest of us. So kudos on you for doing that. So yeah, I mean, you talked about, like, you know, now being such a great time to live in. You talk about the living conditions being way better than, you know, way before, how, you know, people that are in poverty today are living better than barons and kings back then because of all the amenities they have. So human civilization has come a long while, but then you talk about this huge impasse that we are at right now with the challenges we face. And you know, you are optimistic a little bit on how we've come here, but you're also talking about how we might squander this opportunity and not use all this technology to solve the problems that we face. And you talked about three major challenges, right, that humanity faces in the coming decades. Let's talk about that a little bit. Do you know which three I'm talking about, right? Do you want me to name them out, or?
So we're in a very funny situation right now, where for the first time, this planet have been reshaped to be really our planet. If you think about it, no later than 100 years ago, we were only 1.9 billion people, right? I think it's around that number, and we're 7 billion now. 100 years ago, most of the biosphere were the natural world, which was a scary place, which the humans didn't really map or didn't really know how it worked yet. Today, 96% of the mammifers in the planet are actually animals we are producing for our own sake. We are eating cows, chickens, and that represents 96% of the mammosphere. This is crazy, right? 100 years ago, 90% of the living animals were just natural animals, right?
Yeah.
And 100 years later, most of it is in farms, right? So we have harnessed the incredible power of technology and through, you know, power, steam power first, later on oil, etc. We've harnessed this power, but we didn't realize how much power we had and how this could impact our planet and our future generation. And at the same time, that's on the left side. And on the right side, you have a lot of people that I see around me, millennials, people who are 20 to 30 years old. They're depressed. They feel like, oh, they don't know what to do. They don't know what's their place in their world. They feel like, you know, they have to complain. And I just don't understand that.
Well, it's because I think, you know, we're a generation that's been so connected and bombarded with all this information. And you even talked about how the human amygdala always focuses on the negative, right? And how this generation, we're seeing all this excess that's happening around the world. And it's almost like this generation is shouldering all the troubles of the world on top of its shoulders, right? And it's looking at the current system where it is with, you know, wasteful industries and fossil fuels, and it's witnessing all this degeneration of the world, and it sees how probably meaningless and greedy and only pure for profit the motivation of a lot of these corporations are. So a lot of people, I think, they feel both depressed and lost.
Yeah.
You know?
And I was about to say, I don't understand why they could keep being depressed and lost, because in the same time, there's so much to do. There's so much to do, and giving up could be, an easy way, but actually there's a lot to do. And I want this book to be a positive message for all these people to see what is to be done, to see that actually they can do things. And these things really matter. I'll give you an example. Costa Rica, 30 years ago, I've changed the law and let lobbyists to have private companies literally take out for most of the forest. We're talking really about 80% of the forest in Costa Rica who've disappeared. Right? This is crazy. So 30 years ago, you have 40% of the 80% of the forest to disappear just to sell woods and build stupid highways and things like this. The government have changed the policy, and now 30 years later, actually those 80% of the forest have been recreated, right? And when you think about this, if you look really on the internet, we millennials have access to this information. And if you do the extra effort to look at the positives, there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of incredible things that are happening right now. There's a lot of people who are stepping up. There's a lot of people who come from nowhere, have no legitimacy to step up, but they do. And these people, they're really changing their country, they're changing their region, they're changing the world, they're reversing the climate change, they're reversing all the things that we're scared of, because I was scared too. And to be honest, I wrote this book because I'm really scared. And I was really depressed by all these things I was saying. So I was probably one of the guy who were very depressed a couple of years back. And this is where I've been looking for my place in the world for the past decade, right? So that was like, not sure if it was depression, but I was really scared of, what's ahead. And by discovering, by researching what could be my place in this world, I've learned some of the things I put on that book. And really, this is really motivating, because no, I know there's a lot to do, and there's so much to do that I think a couple of multimillionaires or billionaires gonna emerge from the industries I'm quoting from my book. And there's no expertise, there's no master degree of these industries. So all these things are just a matter of, are you interested in participating to change the world? And for the first time in the history of humanity, technology is here, and it is for our generation to take that technology and apply it to give ourselves a future, right? And that's really close. So that's what this book is about, right? It's really about how can we turn these people who are lost and depressed about the situation, to turn them into warrior.
Yeah.
Making the
adaptivists.
Exactly, the adaptivists.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And your book really lays out a lot of opportunities. And you mentioned how, like, the next $1 trillion companies could be companies that solve these problems. So, but before we get into what you see as opportunities and solutions, let's actually lay out concretely what you're afraid of, right? In the book, you talked about 3 major challenges: climate change, technology disruption that is going to totally disrupt the workforce, and also the current energy storage problem, where the current fossil fuels and sources of energy today are not sustainable and not are destroying the environment. So let's talk about what's going to happen to the world if these 3 things are allowed to pan out. So we'll go through that, and then we'll talk about the opportunities that you see.
Yeah. So coming back to this number, right? Think about this, right? Only 4% of the mammals in the planet are actually natural. So, and 100 years ago, it was the contrary. So there's something going on, right? And if you look at the planet today at night, you will really realize that we have taken over everything. There's no space on Earth which has remained natural, right? If you look at the planet at night, you will see all these lights all around, and you really realize humanity is everywhere, and what we used to call our blue planet is really now a big night party at night. uh, and we need to realize that, to be able to realize, oh, that's also our responsibility if we want to be able to have grandchildren, right? Because for sure, they will need to breathe air, they will need to eat food, and they will need to drink water. And right now, the way our overpopulation, I've been using the resources, those resources, will not enable our grandchildren to live, right? So that's a very scary one. So I think climate and in general is environmental changes that will come around with this. You just need to go and watch Our Planet and other documentaries, and you will know what's up, right? But basically, um, there is a lot of things we thought were happening, like climate change. We've heard about that so many times. We're tired of it, and you don't know how to act. But now, um, really, we start to see a little glimpse of it. And I think the decade ahead, there's a lot of climate events that are happening because we already reached those zero point 0.5 increase of degrees Celsius. And so you're going to start to see heat waves that will be more and more dense every year. You're going to see aridification of the soil in many regions, which will make the earth and the agriculture not possible in these regions. That will increase the number of migrants, and those migrants will go knock the door of the foreign countries. You look at Europe. For the past 10 years, we got 1 million migrants increase, and you've seen how it have changed the political landscape in Europe, right? Partially in Italy and Hungary. Now, imagine the next 10 years, we are having 250 million migrants that will leave Africa to go to Europe. 250 million, right? So how will our governments support that, right? And it's just not going to happen. So it's going to be very ugly to see what's going to happen with these migrants. We can already expect the political reshuffling that's going to happen in Europe. Some countries will turn from democracies to dictatorship to protect the locals, and some countries will just disappear. Right? And this is a reshuffling that is directly impacted by climate change. And this is a reshuffling on the scale that haven't been seen for the past 200 years. Because when boundaries in Europe and in Africa or in Asia have been set, it was during the First and Second World War, right? So we haven't got such a political reshuffling for the past 100 years. And this is going to happen next decade because of the intensification of the climate events. So that's just one very small example of it. In the same time, yes, the technology disruption is already here. It's just now people start to understand what's at stake, right? AI have been invented 20 years ago. There's nothing new about it, right? But the adoption of AI in our businesses is starting to come right now. But AI with drones is something that we're going to start to hear during the next 10 years as well, right? So having drones going around the streets to check who is going out of the lockdown for the coronavirus is the first way, right? So we're already seeing these drones deployed, right, to check in, who is on the streets and to alarm the authorities if you are not respecting the lockdown during COVID. but soon enough, those drones will be used for other means, right? And we already seen how drones have been used in the Afghanistan from the American troops to just kill people having a barbecue in their garden, right? So now, so,
Yeah.
so now imagine when the government of China will be on a drone race, just like the US have been in a space race with Russia, right? So this is the things that we're gonna see next 10 years, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna see superpower doing a race about robotization of their army, right? And that's gonna be very, very reshuffling,
Yeah.
right?
And it's not just drones in the military and all like that. It's drones and robots replacing most of the labor force, right? Anything that is manual labor and not really, doesn't involve creativity, anything that's repetitive whatsoever, just think about it. Anything that can be automated will be automated by drones or robotics, because you mentioned in the book energy efficiency, right? We switched to using trucks because it was more efficient to ship items and goods using internal combustion than using manual labor, right? And so the natural step is to transition to robots once they become cheaper than, giving people minimum wage. So that's another challenge that you see, right? About all the entire labor force being automated away, and you're going to have all these people left with no jobs whatsoever, and even more depressed than now, right?
Unless they start to take action and find a meaningful way to work, to be an adaptivist maybe, but absolutely, yeah. It's we're living, actually we have lived already, and this is done, the last era of mass employment, and I think COVID this year have ringed the bell on the glow of this last era, right? There's no other time next 50 to 100 years, which I think there is a half a billion people who walk today, and that will never be the same, right? So COVID was a interesting first trigger of underlying forces that were in action for the past 50 years already, but we didn't really see coming. I'll tell you a story about my friend who graduated and is now a farmer in France. He have a farm, it's probably around like 10 kilometers, on a couple of acres, and he have only one employee, right, in France. And yeah, he have dozens of machines doing all the work for the agriculture. So this is not new in Europe, right? Agriculture have been done like this for maybe 50 years already with machines, right? It's just that no, it's so automated, and it's been like this for at least 10, 20 years, that it doesn't require human labor, right? Now, what's changing is the cost of these machines is going down, 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 while the governments are still operating with the operating system of the labor of 200 years ago, right? Where the labor needs to be paid that much because XYZ need to pay taxes. But what people didn't realize is now their job is competing with machines already for the past 20 years. So when a company or an employer decide to hire someone, partially in the blue collar industry, they're gonna think, okay, can I buy a robot? And will the ROI for next 5 years would be cheaper than paying a salary to someone? So this is no surprise. This has been going on for 20 to 30 years already. However, the difference is now is the infrastructure in terms of electricity and power is actually, the grid have extended to even the most recent emerging markets like Thailand, right? So now even countries in like Thailand or Nigeria, as soon as the electricity grid will be there, and as soon as the labor will cross a certain number, robots will be cheaper.
Yep.
So naturally, employers will choose robots, and this is where we have already been leaving 130 million people losing their jobs during COVID. For 500 million people, 130 million is a lot. It's 27% of the global workforce, active workforce, who got literally no income with COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was going to happen anyway, with or without COVID, because software and automation were going to take their job. But now this just accelerated something. So this was to be expected. Now, the reality, and where it's coming back to one of my fear, and which I hope everyone can fear that so they can take action, is the political reshuffling that's going to come from this, right? How will government react when a bump of their population, maybe 30% of their or 40% of their population, actually can't work? Not because they don't want to work, because there's just no jobs in their country. Mm-hmm. And these population, you cannot keep them busy by going to school, right? They have been spending 20 years of their lives at school again. They're not going to go back to school. So what will they do? And that is how government going to need to be reinvented.
Yep.
Right? This is how taxation and the business model of government itself going to need to be reinvented, because government business model is taxes. But if people don't work, then you cannot tax them. So then what do we do with these people, right? So this is one of the big global reshuffling that will happen next decade. And we're starting to hear about taxation of the robot. We're starting to hear about universal basic income and others. But it's going to be a complex issue. And only our generation, the guys like you, like our friends who are our age, this is only us that can fix that. Our parents don't care already, and our kids, oh man, they're on TikTok. What do you think they're gonna do? You think they're gonna be able to think? They're on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So it's really for our generation. People who are 20 to 30 years old right now. We need to tackle that challenge, and we need to reinvent. We need to dream. Right, and to be able to reinvent a future we want, we need to dream first. And I think we should dream a lot more.
Cool. Let's talk about energy, because that's the third challenge that you outlined here on how can we, because everything that we do requires energy, right? I mean, even in solving all these problems of tech disruption and addressing climate change requires energy. To do any human activity requires energy. But then the problem is right now is that the energy that we have is not sustainable. So tell me about like the current energy crisis right now, and then let's transition into the section where you talk about all these proposed solutions in your books, and starting with energy.
So every major radical shift that operated in humanity for the past 1,000 years have been powered by one very radical new technology covering communication, one energy technology, and one transportation technology. Mm-hmm. We have, for the past 50, 70 years, got into an illusion that we ended slavery. For the past couple of 100 years, slavery was the energy that were powering the world, right?
Yeah.
And that have helped us to do things like discovering new continents, discovering vaccines, and providing food for 100 millions of people with not much effort of them going to hunt every day. Right, that was slavery. So on the 19th and early 20th century, we discovered steam power, coil, and we thought, oh, that's it. Now we have a new power. We don't need to use slave to push the labor in the farms and the fields. And we thought this was the new revolution that the humanity were coming up to. But actually, it was only to get us being enslaved of this new coil energy, right? And if you think about it, today, anything, I just look at your background picture right now.
Mm-hmm.
You have one lamp, you have a table, and you have a tree, and you have a t-shirt, and you have some nice hair.
Yeah, don't forget that. That's the most labor intensive. You know? Yeah, I get it. Everything requires energy to produce.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even your t-shirt, how many kilojoules of energy have been used to produce your t-shirt, right? So when people think about saving electricity, they say, oh yeah, turn off the light. Oh, it's too late. When you wake up in the morning and you put your t-shirt on, you already use probably 20 or 30 megawatts, right? Just because your t-shirt's creation, not even talking about the transportation of your t-shirt to the shop you bought it, or to your home when you took a taxi or when you took a ride home with your shopping bag, that was energy, right?
Yeah.
So we're so addicted to energy and we're so enslaved that we don't realize it, right? You brush your teeth, you think you don't use energy in the morning, but actually you do, right? So this is something that we need to realize first to then think, okay, then where does that energy come from, right? So then we talk about the energy mix, and today the energy mix is mainly steel, coal, and oil, right? And this is, of course, everyone knows about the impact of these energies into the climate change, right? No, the key deal here is we can't stop using energy. We're addicted to it already, right? And there's no way you're gonna give up your t-shirt right now, or you're gonna give up your lights or even your Wi-Fi, right? So let's not go around it. And this is for sure not a question to stop using energy as much as we do, because also we thought we stopped using slaves, right? So actually, yeah, energy have stopped the slavery. It's not the America, it's not bright people who have thought, wishful thinking and human rights. No, it just, we got gas now, so we don't need to use slave. That's it, right? And that's really the difference. So if we were to cut energy tomorrow, then slavery will come back instantly. Right?
Yeah.
And that's something we don't talk about enough, right? And in the countries that don't have an energy grid today, slavery is still there, right? Just look at the emerging countries which don't have a great energy grid, you will see slavery. This is a normal mechanical result. So the question then is, how do we keep harnessing energy power for the next 100 years while also being able to survive, right? And not increase the 2 or 3 degree climate and have a sea rise of 7 meters and kill 100% of the animals around us, right? And we just need to look at one thing. Just look up and see the sun, right? So the sun every day produces 300 times the quantity that it will need for the civilization of the whole human civilization to live for 1 year, right? So this is very simple. There's a lot of things around us which we can harness, and the sun is one key major one of them. Now, there's one thing. Almost 200 million people have cars today, and car companies have put a lot of money to push this idea in your head that to be a man with a nice t-shirt, you also need a nice car, right? And removing that idea gonna be quite painful. So
Yep.
how do you tell to millions of Chinese who are now entering middle class, how do you not buy a car to be a cool man so you can attract a woman and get married and have kids, right? So we need to rethink what is it that a successful millionaire is as a person in the society, and to be able to actually stop that massive energy consumption problem,
Yep.
right? Because there is too much money at stakes for companies to sell you oil and to sell you cars for them to give this up, right?
Yep.
And if you wear them, maybe you would also do the same, right? Because vanity is something we always critique, but we are all having a little part of vanity. So the question is really, how do we make that work for everyone, right? So some of the example that IoT and Internet of Things are enabling, and that's going to be most popularized, I believe, is that actually the new energy grid now start to be affordable and cheaper than any other energies, right? Putting solar panel on your roof, uh, actually you can make money. You can make up to 2-3 thousand US dollar per year, and that's become uh, a very simple rational thinking. Do you want to spend money on electricity, or do you want to make money and sell it to your neighbors, right? So that's the first point. The second point is actually this is the only jobs that are gonna be there for the next decade. so so
Yeah.
if you look at the perspective of the World Bank, the jobs that are gonna be created mainly next 10 years gonna be in the social area, so taking care of other people, like being a nurse or taking care of the elders as a social worker, or being an energy technician, meaning implementing solar panels on roof,
Installing all of that. Yeah.
installing all of these things, but also with high knowledge, right? It's not just a technician who put the solar panel on the roof. It's also people who are gonna think how to recreate the isolation of the houses, of all the buildings we have, and a lot of jobs really gonna be there. So either you are a social worker next 10 years, or either you are an electricity engineer, or either you're a programmer. That's pretty much it, right? And that's for really, we're talking about 70% of the people, right? Content creators like you are already the elite, right? The YouTubers, the esports, the hackers, cybersecurity, those jobs will be there, but that will be very, very much 1%.
Yeah.
So that's the second point. Jobs will be on this area. And three, that will enable what we call the smart energy grid, which is something I'm very excited about. And people like Jeremy Rifkin and governors of Germany, Japan, and other countries are very excited about this. It's actually the relocalization by decentralizing the cities. So who doesn't want to have a villa or a castle to live in, right? Instead of being on a 30 or 50 square meter apartment that costs you so much that you have to take a debt to have that. Who doesn't want a castle for the same price? So this is what the smart energy grid gonna enable. Thanks to the decentralization of this energy power through solar panel and others, you will be able to actually live on a remote area with the 4G, with in very high internet connections, enabling you to work remotely for your business if you're an entrepreneur, or for your company if you work somewhere, to actually work from home and have your energy powered by those solar and other energies in your home as well. And plus that, you will be also able to sell this energy. So this is the third big thing, and that's mixed with remote work. And those three parameters are, I think, where it's exciting to work in the energy field for the next 10 years, because you're saving the climate and you're gonna make money. So yeah, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah. You also mentioned the circular economy, right? It's almost like the whole supply chain in the past 100 years has been a leaking ship, right? Because we haven't closed the loop yet. We've utilized resources, and we haven't, and we've just basically converted it, and we've just dumped it away in the atmosphere, or in the landfills, or in the seas. And you really talked about the circular economy, right, being really critical to saving the planet, really. And can you talk about more about opportunities in the circular economy?
Absolutely. I mean, think about that. We have colonized 97% of the planet. So we're already, there's already someone who've harnessed the reserve of gold, or the reserve of anything you can think of. There is someone there taking it, okay, already. So how do you make money as a new guy in the game, right? Or
Yeah.
how do you create your spot if everyone have already taken everything? Yeah, you can try to be digging really down the earth to find something, but the cost of becoming wealthy gonna be really higher and higher, right? So I'm using this word because a lot of people are interested about money, but maybe some are not, right? But I'm still talking about money first because that's what a lot of people think about. So one big deal is that the rarefication, actually the scarcity of the raw material, will make the raw material price to increase higher and higher, right? So at some point, we're gonna start to look at those used materials and think how we can reuse them, right? How we
Yep.
can recycle them, how we can second-hand use this car, how we can second-hand use this t-shirt, etc. And I think we're starting to see that already. We're starting to see Uber as the way to sharing economy, share your car. But I think the share economy gonna be the big driver of the establishment of this new circular economy, where multiple people will use the same tools, or multiple one tool will have multiple life by being recycled more and more, because the cost of the raw materials, aka the metals or the water or the energy prices, will go up. So transforming a new product will be actually very expensive compared to recycling an old one, right? And I think this is really where, when you think about it, how come are we not doing this already, right?
Yeah.
How come are we absorbing so much quantity of raw materials and not recycling it? We're just trashing that, and then
Yeah.
yeah, it just doesn't make sense. So it will
Yeah.
make sense in a paradigm where resources are unlimited, and meaning planets are unlimited, and nature have multiple planets to thrive,
Yeah.
which we just learned it's not the case, right? So of course the next big economy gonna be around that, and yeah, I really believe the next $1 trillion business we're gonna see, probably not yet, but in five, 7 years, will be a recycling business. I think
Yeah. And then
Elon
one
Musk
one yeah,
doing
go on. Yeah. And one thing that you mentioned is that could be a game changer is 3D printing, right? Where 3D printing technology has become so cheap and commoditized, where anyone can have a 3D printer in their homes, and they can cheaply make things out of recycled material, and how this can be a huge industry, right?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. The richest woman in China made her fortune by recycling paper from the US.
Yeah.
Google that. She's made money by importing used paper from the US and recycling it in China. And she's multi-billionaire. So it's not new. This woman is probably 70 years old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not new. It's just people just think about football or
Yeah.
or banking to make money, but yeah, no, there is very smart people making money on the new ways already, right?
Yeah.
So this is just gonna be democratized more and more as the price of energy will increase.
Yeah.
So now on 3D printing, yeah, it's along the way of the decentralization of power that is enabled by technology, right?
Yeah.
Before, if you wanted to read a journal or read a book, you had to go to the one printer in your city who could print a newspaper, right?
Yep.
Now everyone have a printer in his home, right? Because the cost of this machine is maybe $50, right? So similarly, most of the things that we buy in actually made from plastic, right?
Hmm.
I mean, again, look at around you in your room and tell me what is not made of plastic, right? Even your T-shirt, if it's cotton, you're lucky, but high chances it's polyester, which is plastic,
Hey
right?
man, I only wear cotton, man. No, I'm
Okay.
joking. I know what you mean. Yeah, there's a lot. I have a lot of polyester too.
So the point is, most of the things we use every day are made of plastic. So
Yeah.
then, why do you need to wait to go to the printer, which actually today is in China,
Yeah.
to get you this product that you're gonna use, let's
Yeah.
say in New York, right?
Yeah. And you're wasting the energy to ship it there, whereas you can just print it in New York itself and save all that energy along the way,
Exactly, and
and you get it faster.
it was possible because we were again on this illusion that energy were cheap, right?
Hmm.
But this illusion gonna stop, right? As mentioned earlier, the price of energy gonna increase higher and higher, particularly for coal and gas and oil, because the rarefication of these resources, right? So the price of energy actually gonna keep increasing. To be dropping a small fact, with or without COVID, in 2018 we were the year, and that's you can Google it. It's very interesting. This was the cheapest year ever for the flight industry. No matter what happened, in 2018 we had the cheapest flight ever because the price of oil was the cheapest, and it will
Yeah.
never go as cheap as in 2018.
Yeah.
So no matter what, prices will keep increasing and increasing next 10 years, 100 years, until maybe we can find hydrogen sources and other. But yeah, so think about that. Shipping a product from China to New York have never been as cheap in 2018. And no
Hmm.
matter what, the price will have increased step by step, even with no government intervention, right? So why not just having it printed in your own city or even at your own home? Tell me, how many of these bottles do you drink every year?
Oh, I don't drink Pellegrino, man. That's above my pay grade. I drink no. I drink like 25-cent water. No, I know what you mean. I try to recycle it too, but man, I
There's no
see the landfill. There's tons of bottles all over the place.
exactly. So think of all these waste of bottled plastic that actually have value, right? This plastic have value. As soon
Yep.
as the energy costs increase, the transformation of plastic will increase as well,
Yep.
right? So there is this very fine line where at some point it's going to be a bit expensive to actually trash it because of taxes, and that will be make it more sense for you to actually recycle it at home and 3D print it,
Hmm. Yeah.
partially if you're in a rural area. And this is where 3D printing gonna be the next big deal. It won't be an industry as what we've seen before, where factories were centralizing the means of power. It will be part of the decentralized IoT grid, which I'm talking into the book, where you
Hmm.
will have your solar panel, you will have your 3D printer, you'll have your recycling machine at home, and that will enable you to be sustainable human
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
your
I can see that this whole interview is taking an optimistic toll. I'm starting to build a picture of the new adaptive human. I'm starting to picture my life. You know, I've got my smart grid. I'm living outside in my mansion. I got my solar panels that I'm making all my energy and I'm selling it off. Maybe I'm using this energy to mine some Bitcoin so I can get some Bitcoin too. I'm working remotely.
Absolutely.
And we've got, if I want to go anywhere, I can probably share a Uber or a self-driving Tesla with my neighbor. If I want anything, if I want like a new T-shirt for my next interview, I just print it out using the fabric of clothes that I don't want to use anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's starting to take a really optimistic toll for how you can actually adapt your lifestyle to this. And the thing is that it doesn't seem like a painful adaptation. This all is like, it seems like such a utopia. You know, I'm living in this great place with this energy and reusing all this material, and I'm having social interaction with all these people. The future seems really bright, actually.
Think of it. Why are people so depressed today?
Right? Yeah, I think it's because they haven't read your book, man. I mean, no, but in all seriousness, maybe they haven't seen, they're so bombarded with bad news, right? They haven't been given an actual solution like, okay, these are some industries and these are some developments that are actually will make a difference if, you know, the right people work on it, if they receive the right funding and all like that to succeed. Right. And not enough people see this. They're so wrapped up in, oh my God, like, you know, everything's going to shit, you know?
Absolutely. And I will say on top, let's look back a little bit in history and think today how we live. And at the beginning of the cities, what were promised to us. Yeah. How do you want to be happy when you live within a 30 square meter apartment, eating cans of pasta and cheap steak that you don't really like it, and every week being stressed because you can't afford paying your rent, and maybe not being able to go out with your friends to buy even a drink, where you work 40 hours per week or even 70 hours per week with a second job. How can, and the only thing you have to entertain yourself is Netflix. How can you be happy with this life, right? That's the condition of a good 60% of the people who live in the city.
Yep.
Right? And how can you be happy about this? Now, let's look back in history. When people moved from their farms to city 100 years ago, there were a big promise. The promise was, if you go and work in the factory in the near city, you will make 3 to 5 times more earnings than you were going to make for the whole year within your farm, so that you could basically send that money back to your family and make your family safe for the next few years, right? So there were a lot of money at the beginning of the cities that attracted what we call the rural exode. But today, the paradigm which people live in city is actually really horrible when you think about it. Their grandparents gave up their homes with a couple of acres of farm that they owned with their houses, to be now living in a 30 square meter box and be only able to enjoy that box half of the time, because the other half of the time they are doing stupid things on Excel which they don't understand or value, right? So the condition which humanity have been put on for the past 150 years is really depressing.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about a new paradigm of decentralizing through remote work, through remote solar grids and other decentralized means of production, of course it's exciting, right? Because that's giving freedom to the life that we deserve again, right? And these freedom have been taken by capitalism for the past 200 years, and now capitalism have to reimagine itself to be decentralized, remote, and green sustainably, right? So yeah, it's very exciting, and to help you picture that a little bit, thanks to the automation and thanks to the new technology that are now in agriculture, countries, cities like Copenhagen are actually turning, even though they are very, very limited spaces, Netherlands as a country is the second largest exporter of food, right? even though they have one of the highest human density and one of the smallest space to be able to do agriculture, because they are producing food through vertical farming in buildings and spaces through automated robots that actually enable them to produce 100 times more food than a normal land, right? So the yield of production of the agriculture that we have today as a power is here already. So then think about all these spaces that are gonna be restored as or rewired potentially, because then you need less space for farms, then you can have more spaces for forest. So you, Jed, very, very much 3 years from now could live in a really big castle in the middle of the forest and have your own food, energy, Wi-Fi, and work remotely. You know, this is the dream. But this is what today technology potentially enable us if we dare to dream it. And that's what I think is magical about the time we are in, is because we can either go to a path where we're gonna have 3-degree increase, air gonna be unbreathable, we're gonna have heat strokes and tornadoes pretty much everywhere, and this is a very scary picture. Or we could rewild our planet, and we could all take advantage of this to make money as well, and be part of this new adaptive economy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. So we talked about, we laid out a picture of the challenges we faced. We talked about the opportunities. Let's move on to like action steps here. I also want to talk about Atlas Capital, but let's stick to this thing about, the average city dweller that's depressed, and what do you think needs to happen to drive most people towards being solution oriented rather than problem oriented? Because it seems so many people, like what you talk about here is nothing really new, right? We hear about these challenges all the time, but so little people are actually focusing on the solutions and taking actions. What do you think needs to happen to shift the mindset of these 60% people in the city that hate their lives?
So I think there's 2 key things. Number one is seeking those positive informations. They are here, right? They are here, they're on internet, but this is harder for us to find them because media and social media make more money or engage us more with negative news than with positive news. So seeking those information, these positives, and sharing it around our network across dinners or at bars instead of talking about Donald Trump is the first move. And this is not that hard.
No.
This is not that hard.
It's just to change the topic.
Change the topic is number one. Change the topic. Number two is thinking ourselves as not consumers, but makers, right? Same manner, our last generation have been fed information, right? You receive information with a TV, but we are seeking control on what we watch, right? But we're still watching at the end.
Yeah.
And you still don't know how to make it, or you're just a passive receiver of information, right? So I believe this is an alienation of the humanity that have been occurring for the past couple of 100 years, because capitalism needed consumers to absorb, to consume stupidly everything so they can get money.
Yeah.
I'm on this side as well. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm having clients and consumers, so I want them to be as stupid as possible so I can get money from them every month so they pay me, right? But this thing, I think, is past, right? Today, people are looking to make, right? And the people that are thriving in the new 4.0 industrialization are not the consumer or even the employers or companies who are turning people into consumers. The companies that are thriving are turning their users into makers. They're enabling them to make, produce, create, right? Yeah. The platform who are enabling creation are the platform that are winning, right?
Yeah.
Think about Apple. This is the platform that is enabling most of the humanity to create. Microsoft as well. These platforms are enabling people to create, and hence they are making billions of dollars, because this capacity of create digitally is very, very important today. Now, next decade, we're gonna see a new capacity for people to create also offline, non-digitally product, or combined digitally and non-digitally, the IoT, right? So the companies that will be in there and the people who will be able to make will be leading this. So I think turning the mindset from consuming to making, turning the mindset from trying to use a software to trying to create a software, or just to understand how your computer work or how your car is working, is the mindset that will help everyone to really feel alive. Because trying to paint once a year or once a month, if you're depressed, and you will see, it's so amazing to make things. This is the nature of humans, and this have been with us for the last 100,000 years. It's just we lost it for the past 200 years with consuming mindset, right? But our grandparents were maker.
This is what our brains were made for, to create and solve problems, right?
Exactly. Our brain has been made to create and make things. And this power have been pushed down and be very quiet for the past 100 years. And that's why so many people are depressed. So I think bringing that habit of making something every day will change really the life of a lot of people. And thirdly, the last action is vote. I don't believe when I'm saying vote, I'm not believing I'm talking only about voting for my democracy, right? I'm talking about voting with my spending power as an economical, rational agent to choose where I want my money to go. When I buy a product, do I believe the company who is making those products is following my values? Is this company part of the companies that have destroyed our ecosystem, our planet, and reducing the chances of my children to live? Or is this company trying to build sustainable solutions for my grandchildren to have a future with no country, right? Every time you buy something, you're voting. And this is the biggest power that most of the people in the city have, at least the one in the city. They are buying things every day. And I think by voting to the companies, to giving companies that we believe follow our ethics only, that is the next revolution. This is how adaptivists and the people who want to build the next adaptive economy will be able to make the difference and actually create a war. Because I tell you, if tomorrow you stop giving money to the companies that are not into the adaptive economy, then they will be bankrupt, right? It's as simple. And because the stock market is focused on very simple things, which is earning, then you can very much influence which companies will thrive and which company will die next 10 years by voting your spending power to these companies. So those are the three major actions I would like everyone to realize they have power. And this is not switching off the light to save electricity. This is not stop taking a shower or a bath, right? But these three things are the real power for anyone today, because they are the key points of capitalism, consumerism, right? If you want to change and make the capitalism evolve, you need to use those three powers.
Changing the discussion, switching the paradigm from a consumer to a maker, and voting with your money. 100%. Anyone can do that. Related to voting with your money, to bring that to scale, is investing, right? So let's bring the topic to Atlas Capital, right? So you tell me about Atlas Capital and what the goal is here.
I'm kind of very shy on this topic, to be honest.
Okay. We can talk about something else, or overview.
We can talk about it, but I'm very shy. I tell you why. I started Atlas Capital 11 years ago. And at that time, Atlas was the dream for me to enable people on these three things: changing topics, um, becoming makers, and voting with their money. But I was not ready. I was students back then, and I created a group of 500 makers and visionaries, idealists across, South America, Africa, Europe, and the US, and we were creating a network of maker spaces at that time to create something that will enable this transition. It was too early, and I didn't have any network. I was not legit. I didn't have any money, and I was just a student, so no one listened to me, right? I think I think there is a need for more and more um, smart investors, uh, and I think they feel it. I think a lot of investors are looking to invest in impact. They are looking to make money sustainably. They are looking to not feel bad about their investment, and they have children, so they are looking at investing so into companies that will help their children to thrive, right? And I think this is the aspect which I didn't have 10 years ago, right? There's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of billionaires. There's a lot of multimillionaires that are around there and that want to have a legacy, build something new. And today they're frustrated because the only things that are being given to them is either investing in F&B companies in the stock market, or investing in e-commerce companies.
Yeah.
So I think if we can connect this vision I've shared with you in the book about this new adaptive economy, rewilding our planet starts with simply changing topics. You can also have these topics with those investors, right? And you can have a new operating system of financing to support that grand vision of rewilding our planet and reducing climate change, as well as controlling the power we have for us to have a future, right? I'm talking about AI and IoT. So I strongly see already that most of the richest billionaires on the planet are already on that mindset. I'm talking about guys like, Bill Gates. I'm talking about Richard Branson. I'm talking about, the Rockefeller family. They're already only investing into impact now, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Peter Thiel, funds of funds, founders futures. There's a lot of initiatives there. However, I think there's a big disconnect where this is private money, and governments
Mm.
are actually really lost. They don't know where to invest. They are just paying their debts. So I think there is something there. There is something to connect up private money with the government money, the hedge funds money with the government money on these new sustainable projects. And Atlas Capital is the next big thing I want to work on next year. And I'm going to partner with a couple of very strong people and organizations who are already doing it. This is just my way to connect back everything that is in the book with reality and materialize it. Because what I realized is capitalism isn't bad, money isn't bad, right? It's a tool, right? But to be able to execute, to be able to make something good, you need a vision, right? And most of the time, money doesn't have a vision for itself. So
Hmm.
you need people to have a vision and then fill that vision with money. So that's what I hope Atlas Capital will do. Atlas Capital will focus only on the 10 key pillar industries that are in these books. And if people are curious about what are those industries, they can read the book.
Yeah, we'll keep that a secret as a cliffhanger then, so they can find out in the book.
And yeah, but it's more than just an investment. It's a movement. It's a political movement, and I think you don't need to have money to be part of a political movement. And I think politics, as where when I say politics, I'm talking about more a vision and a dream rather than a country itself, right? Because I really strongly believe a vision is not stopped by a border or by a nationality, right? And I think if we can pursue this vision of the adaptive economy, if this can be exciting, this can be a really big movement. And that's a way of everyone to contribute to save our planet and be part of the generation who have reversed the course of humanity.
Awesome, man. That was an awesome interview. Lots of great stuff there. Just a few ending questions here before I let you go. Here's a question I want to ask. What is let's say, what would you consider is a habit, a bad habit, or a character flaw that you had to overcome that finally enabled you to be successful?
It's really the number two. From being a consumer to being a maker. It's too easy to just switch on Netflix or YouTube or Facebook. It's too easy. Right? And I've been able to pull writing a book at 28 within 6 months because I didn't have Facebook for 6 months. Right? And this is that simple. I have reinstalled Facebook once a week to do my postings, to share about my book, but then instantly uninstall it after the post is done. When I've been watching Netflix, it was really selective watching. I have lists of documentaries, historical documentaries or others that I wanted to watch. But actually, to be honest, it was not on Netflix. Mainly it was on YouTube. It was very selective watching. And I think that's really been a very hard struggle for me because I'm like everyone. I'm addicted to Facebook. I'm addicted to Netflix. I'm addicted to all this stupid shit. But yeah, I think when you realize you can be in control of what information you absorb, and when you realize you can use those information to make things, that my life have completely changed. I have a 3D printer in front of me right now.
Oh, really? Oh, nice, man. Did you print out that sculpture there?
I have so much stuff. Actually, this is one of the things I'm working on right now. So every day I'm making something. Right? And for this guy, I want to print in an armor, like a Mandalorian armor by myself.
Oh, nice.
And so yeah, every day I'm printing something. I have a lot of plants here that I started to grow. Start one year ago during that time I wrote the book. I started to take care of my time and my plants. So I started to print stuff to irrigate the plants. And man, it just feels so good to actually have printed your own thing. With the time before, I was using on Facebook doing nothing, right? Seeing other people live and feeling bad about not having a cool life myself, maybe, right? So yeah,
man, yeah.
I think it's just this mindset. The result of being a maker is you will make your own time. And make your own time, it's like being alive again, right? You can do so many things within a day.
100%. Yeah. Cool, man. Finally, so where can we reach you? Where would you like people to, some links that you like to go to, social media or websites? You can let us know here.
I am available over email, johan.fal@gmail.com.
All right, I'll link that.
I am available. This is my blog, which I wrote a little. but I think the key one is the Substack. The adaptive economy Substack is where I will publish article, quite often, and also ebooks, like smaller parts of my book, more explanative, as well as videos, maybe interviews of thinkers that are, have been mentioned or quoted in the book. So yeah, the Substack adaptive economy is the big one, and my email. And also at my events, I organize a lot of events all the time. So feel free to add me on Facebook and see when I have events. I know, Jets, you've been attending some of them.
Yeah, they were great.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right, John, I don't want to keep you here any longer. This was awesome, man. Thanks a lot for being on the show. Thanks for sharing with us all these wonderful ideas. And it's very optimistic, we know all these things going on in the world. It's refreshing to hear from someone who has a list of solutions that they've really been working on and is working towards someone. Thanks, man. You're real inspiration to us all.
Thanks for the interview, and good luck with your channel. Looking forward to speak again very soon.
For sure, man. Thanks.